The glass shattered against the marble floor. Kang Hae-ryan didn't flinch. He stood at the window of his penthouse, 53 stories above Manhattan, watching the city bleed light into the winter darkness. His reflection stared back at him, sharp jaw clenched, dark eyes hollow. Behind him, 3 men in tailored suits stood frozen, waiting for permission to breathe. "Get out," he said quietly. They scattered like shadows. Kang checked his watch. 11:43 p.m. His fingers tightened around the whiskey glass in his hand. She was late again. 3 hours late. The most dangerous man in New York, the chairman of the Biko Circle, a crime syndicate that controlled half the underground economy on the East Coast, wasn't waiting for his enemies. He was waiting for his maid. Karen Cole had worked for him for 8 months. 8 months of silence. 8 months of distance. 8 months of a woman who moved through his penthouse like a ghost, cleaning his world without ever touching it. She never asked questions. Never looked him in the eye for more than a second. Never accepted a single gift he left on the counter, envelopes of cash she'd return unopened with a quiet, "I only take my salary, Mr. Kang." But lately, something had changed. Wednesdays and Fridays, she started arriving late. Not just late. Hours late. And when she did come, there was something different in her eyes. Something he couldn't name. Something that made his chest tight. The elevator chimed. Kang turned sharply. Karen stepped out, her coat dusted with snow, her brown skin flushed from the cold. She met his gaze for half a second before looking away, moving toward the closet to hang her things. "You're late," he said. "I apologize, Mr. Kang." Her voice was steady, professional. She didn't offer an explanation. "This is the 4th time." "I know. Where were you?" Karen paused, her hand on the closet door. "That's personal." Kang's jaw tightened. "You work in my home. Nothing is personal." She turned to face him then, and for the first time in 8 months, she held his stare. "I work for you, Mr. Kang. I don't belong to you." The silence that followed felt like ice cracking. Kang had ended men for less defiance. But he didn't move. He couldn't. Because beneath the anger coiling in his chest was something far more dangerous. Fear. 5 years ago, a woman named Seo Min-hee had stood in this same penthouse. She'd smiled at him, touched his face, whispered promises. And then she'd sold every secret she knew to his rivals. The betrayal had nearly destroyed him. Nearly killed him. He'd built walls after that. Walls no one could breach. Until Karen Cole walked into his life with her quiet dignity and her refusal to be bought. And now she was disappearing. Just like Minnie had. Karen moved past him toward the kitchen. Kang followed, his footsteps silent on the marble. "Are you seeing someone?" The question came out harsher than he intended. Karen stopped. She turned slowly, her expression unreadable. "Why would that matter to you?" "Answer the question." "No." "Then where do you go?" "That's none of your business." Kang stepped closer. Too close. He could see the pulse in her throat, the way her breath quickened. "Everything about you is my business." Karen's eyes flashed. "You don't own me." "I could." The words slipped out before he could stop them. She didn't back away. Instead, she tilted her head, studying him like he was something fragile. "No, you couldn't. Because I would leave. And you know it." She was right. That was the problem. Kang had power over everyone in his life. Everyone except her. And it was driving him insane. The next morning, Kang sat in his office with Han Tae-sung, his oldest friend and second in command. Tae-sung had been with him since they were teenagers in Seoul, clawing their way out of poverty together. If there was anyone Kang trusted, it was him. "I need you to follow someone," Kang said, sliding a photo across the desk. Karen's face stared up from the glossy paper. Tae-sung's eyes widened slightly. "Your housekeeper?" "Wednesdays and Fridays." "I want to know where she goes. Who she meets. Everything." Tae-sung hesitated. "Hyung, are you sure about this?" "Just do it." 3 days later, Tae-sung returned with a folder. Kang opened it, his heart pounding. Inside were surveillance photos. Karen walking alone through the streets. Karen entering a building on the Lower East Side. Karen sitting in what looked like a classroom. "There's no man," Tae-sung said quietly. She goes to Riverside Community Institute. Night classes. Kong stared at the photos. Relief flooded through him, followed immediately by shame. He'd been so consumed by his past, so certain history would repeat itself, that he'd violated her privacy. Her trust. And for what? Because she was trying to better herself? Sir, Taesung said carefully. May I speak freely? Kung nodded. You're not yourself lately. Not since she came. I'm worried you're getting distracted. I'm fine. Are you? Taesung leaned forward. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're falling for someone who could never fit into your world. Kang's eyes darkened. That's enough. But Taesung's words echoed in his mind long after he left. Because they were true. Karen didn't fit into his world. She was light and he was darkness. She was hope and he was ruin. And he wanted her anyway. That night, Kong waited for her in the living room. When she arrived, right on time for once, he gestured to the seat across from him. Sit. Karen hesitated, then sat. She folded her hands in her lap, her posture perfect. I know where you've been going, Kong said. The night classes. Riverside Community Institute. Her face went pale. You've been following me? I needed to know. Karen stood abruptly. You needed to know? What gives you the right? Sit down. No, her voice shook with fury. You don't get to spy on me and then order me around like I'm one of your men. I was protecting you. From what? My own life. She laughed bitterly. You want to know the truth, Mr. Kong? Fine. I'm taking classes because I had to drop out of college when my mother got sick. Cancer. Stage 4. I spent 2 years watching her die while drowning in medical debt. I came to New York with nothing. Nothing except the determination to finish what I started. So yes, I go to school twice a week. Yes, I come home late. And no, I don't owe you an explanation for trying to survive. The rawness in her voice hit Kang like a physical blow. He'd been so focused on his own trauma that he'd never considered hers. Karen. I quit. She turned toward the door. Wait. Kang stood, his heart racing. Don't go. Why? So you can keep me here like one of your possessions. No, he took a step closer. Because I'm sorry. She stopped. Turned. Her eyes were wet with unshed tears. I'm sorry, Kang repeated, the words foreign on his tongue. I was wrong. I let my past control me. I let fear turn me into something I hate. Why do you even care where I go? Karen asked softly. I'm just your housekeeper. No, Kang said. You're not. The air between them crackled with everything unsaid. Kong wanted to close the distance, to touch her face, to tell her that she'd become the only real thing in his carefully constructed world of lies. But he didn't. Because she deserved better than a man who dealt in violence and fear. Stay, he said finally. Please. And I'll pay for your education. All of it. Karen's expression hardened. I don't want your money. It's not charity. Consider it an investment. In someone he stopped himself. In someone I respect. She studied him for a long moment, then shook her head. I'll stay. But I pay my own way. That's not negotiable. Kang nodded, relief washing through him. Understood. The weeks that followed felt different. Warmer. Kong found himself timing his evenings around her arrivals. They'd talk sometimes, small conversations about nothing important. She'd tell him about her classes. He'd tell her sanitized stories about his day, leaving out the violence and blood. For the first time in 5 years, the penthouse felt less like a fortress and more like a home. But Han Taesung watched. And he did not like what he saw. Taesung had built his entire life around Kang Hae-ryan. They'd survived together, bled together, built an empire together. And now, some woman who cleaned floors was unraveling everything. Kang was softer. Distracted. Weak. The other families had started noticing. Whispers circulated that the Biko Circle's chairman had lost his edge. Taesung couldn't allow it. He'd worked too hard, sacrificed too much. If Kong wouldn't protect himself, then Taesung would do it for him. It started small. A doctored bank record showing deposits to Karen's account from a rival organization. Encrypted messages fabricated to look like she was feeding information to competitors. Taesung was careful, methodical. He knew Kang's trauma, knew exactly how to trigger it. The evidence mirrored Seo Min-hee's betrayal pattern perfectly. Then he left the folder on Kang's desk. Kang found it late one night. His hands shook as he flipped through the pages. Bank transfers. Messages. Surveillance photos that made innocent moments look suspicious. The room spun. His chest constricted. It was happening again. History was repeating itself. No, it couldn't be. Not Karen. Not her. But the evidence was there. Cold. Undeniable. The next time Karen came to work, Kang couldn't look at her. He stayed in his office, door locked, drowning in whiskey and doubt. She knocked once. "Mr. Kang? Is everything all right?" He didn't answer. The silence stretched for days. Karen felt it like a weight on her chest. Something had changed. The warmth had drained from the penthouse, replaced by the same cold distance she'd felt in the beginning. But this was worse. This felt dangerous. She started noticing things. The way Kang's men watched her. The way Han Tae-sung smiled when their eyes met, something cruel in his expression. She'd grown up in Englewood, Chicago. She knew danger when she saw it. If she wanted to survive, she couldn't wait for Kang to trust her. She had to find out what was happening herself. Wednesday night, after her class, Karen didn't go home. She circled back to the building, using the service entrance she'd memorized months ago. If someone was setting her up, the proof would be in Kang's office. It had to be. The penthouse was dark. Karen's heart hammered as she slipped inside. She'd never broken Kang's rules before. Never crossed the line into his private spaces. But this was survival. She found the office. The door was unlocked. Inside, moonlight streamed across the desk where a folder lay open. Karen stepped closer, her breath catching as she saw her own face staring up from surveillance photos. Bank records with her name. Messages she'd never sent. Looking for something? Karen spun. Han Tae-sung stood in the doorway, a gun in his hand. "Tae-sung, I almost admire you," he said, stepping inside. "You really had him fooled. Made him soft. Weak. But I couldn't let it continue. You did this." Understanding crashed over her. "You faked everything." Kang needed to remember who he is. What he's built. A woman like you're a distraction. A weakness. And weaknesses get people killed. He'll know the truth. Will he? Tae-sung smiled coldly. Or will he just find your body and assume his instincts were right all along? Karen ran. She bolted past him into the hallway, her feet slipping on marble. Tae-sung followed, not rushing. He knew every exit was locked. She made it to Kang's bedroom and slammed the door, locking it. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. One message. That's all she had time for. Asterisk Han Tae-sung is the traitor. Help, asterisk. She sent it to Kang and prayed he'd see it. Prayed he'd believe her. Prayed she'd live long enough for it to matter. Outside, Tae-sung's voice was calm. Open the door, Karen. Let's end this cleanly. Kang was in a meeting across town when his phone buzzed. He glanced down, saw Karen's name, and his blood turned to ice. He was moving before he finished reading. His men scrambled to follow as he tore through traffic, running red lights, his mind racing. He'd been wrong. God, he'd been so wrong. Not about her. About everything. The penthouse elevator had never moved slower. When the doors opened, Kang had his gun drawn. He found Tae-sung outside the bedroom door, weapon raised. Hyung, Tae-sung said, turning. She broke in. She's been stealing from you. Drop the gun. Tae-sung's eyes widened. You can't be serious. She's using you. I said drop it. For a moment, Tae-sung hesitated. Then he laughed, bitter and sharp. You're choosing her over me? Over everything we built? You betrayed me, Kang said quietly. You faked evidence. Tried to kill an innocent woman. All because you were afraid of change. I was protecting you. No. You were protecting yourself. Kang's voice hardened. Put down the gun, Tae-sung. Don't make me do this. Tae-sung's hand trembled. Then, slowly, he lowered the weapon. You're weak, he whispered. Just like I thought. Kang's men moved in, disarming Tae-sung and dragging him away. Kang holstered his own gun and approached the bedroom door. Karen, he called softly. It's me. You're safe. The lock clicked. The door opened. Karen stood there, tears streaming down her face, and without thinking, Kong pulled her into his arms. "I'm sorry," he whispered into her hair. "I'm so sorry. I should have trusted you. I should have." "You came," she said, her voice breaking. "You believed me. Always." Kong pulled back, cupping her face in his hands. "I will always believe you. I love you, Karen. I have for months. I was just too afraid to admit it." She stared at him, searching his eyes. Then she kissed him. Soft and fierce and full of everything they'd been too scared to say. When they finally pulled apart, Kong rested his forehead against hers. "I want to support your education. Not as your employer. As your partner. Let me stand beside you." "Equals?" Karen asked. "Equals," Kang promised. 2 years later, Kang Hae-ryan stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Esther Cole Initiative, a foundation providing education access to inner-city youth. Beside him, Karen Cole Kong, now his wife and a licensed social worker, smiled at the crowd. The man who once ruled from shadows had learned to stand in the sun. And the woman who refused to be owned had taught him that love wasn't about possession. It was about partnership. Trust. Choosing each other every single day. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments what you'd do if you were in Karen's position. Would you have trusted him? Would you have run? Drop your thoughts below and like this video if you believe in second chances and love that transforms.